from Peartree Papercrafts. Welcome back to my channel. I'm back today with a 12 by 12 process video for you, and this one is part of the Scrappy YouTubers Cooperative, the ScrapTubeUK Hop that's happening today on this Saturday on the 23rd of November. You will find all the other details of all the other members of the hop down in the description box below, and if you just look on their channel and you'll see the ScrapTube title on the video, and that's the one you need to be looking for. So the focus of this particular hop this time is just memory keeping, and I've decided to scrap a memory of my son, and I was really inspired by a layout I saw on UK Scrap Addicts this month, and I think it was Karen Moss, and she did a layout and she used cogs and she distressed the cogs using some crackle paste, and I don't have crackle paste, so I just use some modelling paste, and I put it on top of these chipboard cogs that I've got, and then I let it dry, and then all I've done on top of that is smushed some blue distress ink, because I wanted to go with a real blue colour theme to this particular layout. So my cogs are made out of chipboard. They were purchased ones, they weren't die cuts. I think Karen used die cut ones, but mine are just ones that I've bought, and I've had them for absolutely ages and I had no idea what to do with them. And I also had this stencil, and I've never used this either, so I'm really excited to be able to finally put these things together. My layout looks quite different to hers, but I was inspired by the way she used them, so I just thought I'd give it a go. So what I'm doing now is I'm just using my stencil. It's just a piece of white cardstock. I haven't pre-prepared it with anything. There's no gesso on here or anything. So I'm just using the stencil different ways up. Sometimes I'm pressing really hard and putting loads of ink through, and then other times I am just doing it really, really lightly, so I kind of get that different depths of that stenciled image. I don't really want it all the same. I wanted it to look like there were lots of layers of those cogs. And I've used the same colour distress ink that I use on top of the chipboard cogs that I've distressed. So when I put the modelling paste on them, I just kind of splattered it on, if you like. I didn't paste it on smoothly, and I left kind of lumpy bumpy bits because I wanted them to not look perfect and smooth. So now I'm using my stencil again. This time I'm using some Nouveau embellishment mousse. This is the expanding mousse that they do, but I don't heat emboss it to make it expand. I didn't want that on this particular layout. I just wanted to use the lovely blue colour. So there's another layer on top. So I've got different coloured layers of my stencils in the background, and then that lovely paste on top of that. And now I'm just using a little bit of the blue ink, again watered down, just to splatter on to get some ink splodges on there. Now I haven't gessoed it, so they do sort of soak in and spread a little bit, but I don't mind so much about that. It gives a nice effect. And then there are my cogs. So just since I pulled them out and they've been drying, I decided that actually they don't look very sparkly. So I just take a paintbrush and that embellishment mousse, again, embellishment mousse? It's a mousse anyway. And I just paint a little bit onto each of the cogs. I don't cover them, just put a little bit on each, and it just gives them a tiny little bit of sparkle that then kind of ties them in really well with the background that I've created. So now I start looking through the different bits of embellishments I've got. I'm using the Cocoa Vanilla Studios Boys Rule collection to embellish my layout today. It doesn't need a lot more, but I just wanted a couple of bits. I have a quick flick through all the different bits and pieces that I've got left over, and I pull out a few that would work with this layout. I'm trying to stick to the blues, so I do pull out things that are blue, and then I also pull out some things that are grey. And I do, in the end up choosing one of the big die cut chipboardy words for my title. So I pull out awesome, and I also pull out the best, because I wasn't quite sure at this point what I was going to use. And I just have a really good flick through, trying to decide if I'm going to use any of these frames and put a frame around the photograph. But in the end I decide that that's not what I'm going to do, and I don't want any big pieces on here, because otherwise they'll sort of get in the way, and the cogs are the main feature that I really wanted to sort of use on this particular layout. So I've just kept a few little pieces out, just ummed and ahh'd about frames like I said, but chose not to in the end. And then I pull out my scraps. I keep my scraps in little IKEA Ziploc bags for each collection. So I've got a set of drawers to the side of me, and I've got collections in 12 by 12 Ziploc bags, and then within there's a little bag with all my little scraps in, because I don't throw any of my scraps away for collections, because you can always use them to pop behind photographs. So what I'm doing, I'm just popping my photograph here onto some white cardstock because I want a little whiteboard around it, because that background's reasonably dark in colour. And then I just choose a couple of pieces of scraps of the cardstock, like I say, from that collection, and place them behind the photo. I quite like it when matting behind a photograph doesn't cover the whole of the back and it just pokes out from one side or from the other. So that's all I do here. Use a couple of pieces that have got kind of a black pattern on a white background. I do and ah about possibly putting it on that dark grey, but I decide not to in the end. I'm using a piece of adhesive foam now, just on the back of the photo, and then plenty of double-sided sticky tape, because I just want to make sure it's got a little bit of dimension, because I do want to be tucking some of my cogs underneath my photograph, and also because there's quite a lot of mixed media on the background now with that paste, plenty of tape to make sure it sticks down. And then I just, it's definitely going to be that title of Awesome, which I'm more than happy with. So I'm just going to grab some wet glue and blob that all over the back of that title, and then just place that underneath the photograph and hold it down just for a couple of seconds to make sure it sticks and doesn't decide to move. The glue I use doesn't take very long to dry at all. There we go, happy with that now. So then I'm going to start tucking in the different cogs and all the different sizes. So I go for the big ones first and make sure that they're spread out. And then I start taking the medium-sized ones and placing those in different places, and then tucking some in between the layers of matting under the photo, and then at various different points around. So I have covered up quite a lot of that mixed media that I made, and I think you end up doing that a lot when you do a mixed media background. But because it's the same sort of thing, it just all ties in really nicely. So now, once again, just using wet glue out of my fine liner bottle, just to stick all the different pieces down. I think there's a couple I miss in the end as well, that I pick it up and then maybe move, because I forget which ones I've done. Just tucking those in there, give that sense of dimension to the layout. I'm trying not to move too many at once. Then I do realise I forgot to stick that little thumbs up down as well. I do decide to pop that little hashtag on. It's actually a picture of my son just playing at our local playground, but the equipment he was on kind of reminded me a little bit of cogs with it, because it spins, and he will sit there and spin on it for hours and hours and hours. I'm not quite sure how he doesn't make himself really poorly, but he loves it. Took that little label in there, that Boys Rule one. I did and ah about those arrows for a while, but decided in the end that I'm not going to use them. And the last thing I am going to do is add a few more splatters, and I'm going to use some metallic silver acrylic paint and just splatter that across, but just cover my photograph up to make sure I don't cover that in silver paint. I do just want it on the background and on the cogs. Thank you ever so much for watching. That's about it for the end of my layout. If you keep watching, there are some close-ups at the end. Again, please go and check out the other videos in the ScrapTube Hop. I think you will enjoy what you have to see. What there is to see, should I say. And I will see you again, hopefully on my channel soon. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. I love receiving comments, and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. See you again soon.